Hey guys, welcome back to Tried, Tested, and True Instant Pot Cooking, where I share with you Instant Pot inspirations and ways to feel confident using your Instant Pot. Today I am so excited to be sharing with you one of my most popular recipes. It is my viral chicken noodle soup recipe with homemade egg noodles. This recipe has been made so many countless times, and it is my most cherished, beloved recipe because I developed it from scratch. I've been making it for years. I used to make it before on the stovetop. It would take hours to make, and now I can make it in my Instant Pot in like 30 minutes or less if you're really fast. But if you don't believe me, just go read all the reviews on my website and on my Instagram. Everyone is obsessed with this soup, and I am too, so I'm so excited to be sharing it with you today. Okay, so for this recipe to be totally successful, you need 4 critical ingredients. The first ingredient for the soup is fresh parsley. I know that might sound kind of weird because fresh parsley is usually just like a garnish, but it adds so much freshness and flavor to the soup. You really need to buy the fresh curly parsley. The second vital ingredient for this viral chicken noodle soup recipe is better than bouillon. This is a chicken base. It's like this paste consistency, and you reconstitute it with water to add really good flavor to anything that uses chicken broth or that needs a little bit of extra chicken flavor. The best place you can possibly find it is a large jar at Costco. Usually is on sale for about $5 to $6, but if you go to a regular store, you can also find it there. I like to get the organic reduced sodium kind. The third absolutely necessary ingredient for this Instant Pot chicken noodle soup is tarragon. Now, tarragon is not one of those spices that everyone always has. It's actually a little bit more expensive at the grocery store, but it is so important to this chicken noodle soup. It has almost a minty flavor to it, but it is so necessary, so please don't skip the tarragon. The last vital ingredient to this amazing chicken noodle soup recipe is homemade egg noodles. So you can make this soup without the homemade egg noodles, but I just don't think it's quite the same. So I have a full recipe for the egg noodles that I'm going to walk you through today as well. And I'll also give you instructions if you want to just use pre-made pasta, or if you have like pre-made frozen egg noodles, you can use those too. With all that said, let's talk about the ingredients for this chicken noodle soup. For the soup, you will need 1 tablespoon of olive oil or butter, 1 large onion diced, 1 tablespoon of minced garlic, 1 bag of mini carrots, or it's about 3 cups chopped carrots, 1 whole bunch of celery, or about 5 cups, 2 to 3 fresh or frozen chicken breasts, and if you use fresh chicken, you can dice that up, and it's about 3 cups of chicken breast, half a cup of fresh curly parsley, 2 tablespoons of dried oregano, 1.5 tablespoons of dried basil, 2 tablespoons of tarragon, 1 bay leaf, 6 cups of chicken broth, and I just use water with the right amount of better than bouillon to reconstitute it. I think it's like 1 teaspoon for 1 cup of liquid. An additional 1/4 cup of better than bouillon, and 1 cup of heavy cream. This is what makes it so thick and rich and creamy. It is to die for. But if you are dairy free and you don't want to add heavy cream, just add an additional cup of chicken broth, so that would be 7 cups of chicken broth. For the homemade egg noodles, you will need 2 cups of flour, half a teaspoon of baking powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of white pepper or salt is fine too, 2 large eggs, half a cup of warm water, and additional flour as necessary. It's about half a cup to 1 cup when all is said and done. This chicken noodle soup is unlike any other you've ever had. It is very herby, it's hearty, it's thick. This is not like a couple pieces of carrot and celery and chicken swimming in this like clear chicken broth. It is so flavorful and warm. It's going to be the best chicken noodle soup you have ever had, I promise. To start making our Instant Pot chicken noodle soup, first press the saute button on your Instant Pot, set it to high, and then add 1 tablespoon of butter or oil, and just let that melt down. And then add your large chopped onion. I like to just let it sit and kind of sweat down until it's slightly translucent. While the onions are sweating down, this is when I like to start making my pasta dough for my homemade egg noodles. So first you need 2 cups of flour in a bowl, and then I like to make a well in the center. And then add your baking powder and white pepper or salt. Whisk this all together so we can combine all of those dry ingredients. And then make another well. And add 2 large eggs and half a cup of water. Mix all these ingredients up to make a soft dough, and once it gets kind of combined, I like to move from a spatula to my hands and just kind of knead it together a little bit. You're not like kneading it like bread dough, but you want it to come together. After everything is combined into a nice ball, just cover this with some plastic wrap or a clean towel, and we'll come back to it in just a couple minutes, but we need to let it rest. So we'll go back to our soup and add the rest of our vegetables. You add your garlic, and then add your carrots and celery. Just mix this all together and let it saute for a couple minutes just to kind of get those vegetables a little bit softened. Next, add your chicken breast pieces. So here I have about 3 cups of chopped chicken breast pieces, but if you don't want to cut them up beforehand, you can just throw in 2 or 3 large pieces, like frozen or fresh. With the chicken, add about 3/4 of your fresh parsley. Next, in a small bowl, combine all of those spices together. So we have basil, oregano, tarragon, and bay leaf. Throw the bay leaf in your soup and then just mix up the rest of your spices, and then sprinkle in about half, and make sure you save the rest because we'll add those after pressure cooking. Now we'll just pour our chicken broth over all of that and then mix it all together. Place the lid on top of your Instant Pot, lock it into place, and then turn the sealing knob from venting to sealing. If your chicken was cut up into pieces like mine was in this video, then just set your Instant Pot to 3 minutes. That's right, it doesn't take very long at all. If your chicken is larger, like you have a 1-pound frozen chicken breast or a fresh chicken breast, just do 10 minutes instead of 3. Now that our soup is pressure cooking, we can come back to our egg noodles. Just take that little ball dough out onto a floured surface and just give it an initial roll out. You want to kind of tap it into a round disc, however far it will roll out, but we just want to make sure this is generously floured the whole time. Lots of people get really flustered about the noodles, but you have to make sure you're flouring all the time. Dust the noodles again and then flip it over. You want to make sure that you're always flipping and flouring as much as possible to make sure nothing sticks on your work surface. The best way to do this is just grabbing a little bit of flour off of your workbench and then taking it up a little bit higher and then just sprinkling it like this, kind of like in a snapping action is like the best way. But the higher you go, the more evenly distributed the flour will be, so that's why I like to do that. Now just cover it with a clean tea towel or some plastic wrap, and we'll come back to this in 5 minutes. All right, 5 minutes later, we're gonna take the tea towel off of the noodles, and that just gave time for the dough to just rest and relax so it wasn't so tight and elastic. So now roll them out further, probably about 1/8 of an inch is what we're looking for. Now you want to cut it into strips. So as you can see, I cut mine into quadrants, so I had smaller pieces that were easier to work with. And then I'm gonna just take each one of those squares and then roll them out just a little bit and then cut them into long rectangles. Remember to flour at every step. This is the most important thing. And then you can just use either a knife or a bench scraper to cut your noodles. If you have a pizza cutter, that also works well, or if you have a pasta machine, even better. I just like using this bench scraper because it's a lot easier, but I also used a knife with great results. You want to cut the noodles so they're about 1/4 of an inch thick, and they will expand while they're cooking, so don't worry if they're too little. All right, now that we have these beautiful little noodles, toss them in a bowl with you guessed it, more flour. And then I like to just shake that bowl and kind of throw it and toss it a little bit so everything is coated in flour. When all the noodles are done, I just like to cover this and I'll keep it in my fridge or my freezer depending on how far along the soup is. And then when I'm ready to cook them, I'll take them out of the fridge or the freezer. You just don't want them sitting at room temperature getting hot or warm because then they will start to stick to each other. All right, now our soup is done pressure cooking. As soon as it's done pressure cooking, you can do a quick release. But with any Instant Pot dish that has a lot of liquid in it, I prefer to do short bursts, releasing the pressure so then, you know, liquid or soup or whatever's in the Instant Pot doesn't come spewing out of the sealing knob, because that does happen. I just like to turn the knob from venting to sealing in just like quick bursts at first, and then you can do longer bursts as the pressure releases. So if your chicken is cut, you're good to go. You're just ready to keep rolling with the soup. But if your chicken was a whole piece, just take them out onto a cutting board and cut them up into cubes, or you can shred them. It's whatever your preference is. Next, press the saute button to bring it back up to a boil. And we're gonna add the rest of our parsley and the rest of our dried herbs back to the soup, along with that 1/4 cup of better than bouillon, and just mix that all in. We're gonna add just a little bit more flavor into the soup. Pressure cooking the soup kind of dampens those herb flavors, so I like to add the second half after pressure cooking. So then it just like livens up that flavor a little bit and it just tastes a lot better. As soon as the soup has come back up to a boil, you can start adding your egg noodles. So just take your bowl of egg noodles from the fridge or the freezer or the counter and start sprinkling them into the soup. It's okay if the flour gets in there that is in the bowl, because that also will help thicken the soup a little bit. I like to just give this a little stir to kind of distribute the noodles into the broth, and then you only have to cook the noodles about 2 or 3 minutes. And as soon as they all float to the top and they're plump and they look good, you can usually test one to see if it's cooked all the way. You're done. So turn off your Instant Pot, and then this is my favorite part, is add a cup of heavy cream to the chicken noodle soup if you want to make it extra creamy. Oh, there's seriously nothing better than adding heavy cream to anything. It makes everything taste better. Here's a quick tip for all you mamas out there. If you have little babies or even big babies like I do, and you're serving this super hot soup for dinner, this is what you should do. So take their little bowls out, and then I like to add frozen vegetables to their bowl. I usually do like corn or peas. I usually have just like something in my fridge, like some mixed vegetables or whatever, but they have to be frozen. So add a little bit of some frozen vegetables to their bowls, and then ladle some of the hot soup in their bowls. Mix it up, and then just let it sit for a second, probably like 2 to 3 minutes, and then come back and mix it again. And this will be the perfect temperature for your kids. The frozen vegetables cools down your soup, and the hot soup warms through the vegetables, and it's the best hack for all you parents out there. If you like this video, make sure you check out my 7 essential Instant Pot recipes every Instant Pot owner needs to know video next, and I'll see you next time. Bye.